Welcome, sentient beings from all known universes and beyond. It's time to activate your cranial downlinks and prepare to receive a raft of discussion on a cosmic ocean of science fiction and fantasy topics, interviews with local area genre devotees, and insightful prognostication by our soothsayers of science fiction, our forecasters of fantasy, and any other beings that happen to get caught in our gravity well. This is the Galactic Driftwood Podcast.
Well, here we are again for welcome to our fourth episode
podcast, yes,
of Galactic Driftwood Podcast. I'm Bill. I'm
Audie.
Charles. John.
And with us today, a special guest, Josh Caito, cosplay extraordinaire. He says no, but he's being very modest.
No, he is. Could you turn my volume?
Yeah.
Because, you've turned him down too far, I think. But no, sweet. No, Josh is... Dude, you're in a special class all your own.
No,
Dude, you taught yourself how to sew. I saw that thumb wound you had that got infected. You have put in the price for excellent cosplay, and it shows. Do we have a picture of him in his FMA outfit?
We can throw one up.
That'd be awesome.
In post.
If that would be okay with you.
Cover John with it.
Yes, we will.
About it.
We'll just put it right over John.
Yeah.
But, Josh, so here's the thing. How long have you been doing this?
So actually, the first time I ever cosplayed was almost 4 years ago it was about 4 years ago. First time I ever really competed with it anyway was at British Fest here in Omaha. And I had what I would call an eye-opening moment, I think a lot of cosplayers do, which was I entered the cosplay contest in a 10th Doctor suit I had purchased online from a retailer named Manuoli Clothiers. I always get that wrong. And I entered the contest actually wearing a women's version of the 10th Doctor coat that Bill's wife had lent me because mine hadn't arrived yet. And we get to the end of the contest, and the judge pulls me aside, and she said, "Man, that was fantastic. You look exactly like the character. We can't award you anything." And I went, "But I look just like the character." She's like, "Right, but you didn't make any of it." And I went, "People make these?"
Yeah.
It just blew my mind because you see a lot of the costumes, and they look store-bought and professional, and she's like, "Yeah, people sew their own and do all the armor crafting and leather work." And I went, "Oh man, I have to get started then." And went out and bought a sewing machine on Amazon Gold Box deal, and then started with a pillowcase, which was terrible. And then I did a second pillowcase, which was slightly less terrible, and kind of went from there.
So I could actually learn to sew just by sewing pillowcases?
It's kind of funny. Most people who start sewing having not had any experience before, there's a few starter projects everybody does, which is a pillowcase, some type of bag, and then usually like a T-shirt, something basic and simple that you can follow a pattern on. If you get through those and you're like, I hate this, I've not enjoyed any part of this, it's probably not for you. I would get to the end of one of those projects and go, okay, there's definitely stuff I could do better. I'm just not sure how to do it yet, so I'm just going to keep banging away at it until I have it figured out. And now I'm fully tailoring my own suits and occasionally making stuff for other people if they ask me really nicely. And
the stuff he's making is amazing. I mean, you would think if you're just making something for cosplay, you want it to just look good on the outside. But his goes so far as even the inside of the pockets are lined.
Yeah, things that people will never see.
Well, there is earlier before we started recording, I talked about what I would call like an uncanny valley. And there's sort of the same thing with cosplay for me a little bit. And I've talked to other people about this, where if you take a character, particularly an anime character, which is where a lot of cosplay comes from, there's two directions you can go with it, which is super saturated, very cartoony, but you should be cell shading yourself at that point and really try and make it look like it's a drawing. Or, and this is the direction I prefer go to most of the time, try to make it realistic.
Bring it into the real world.
Yeah, if somebody wore this outfit walking down the street, it should look natural. And I have found that particularly as the skill set I possess has increased, and as I've kind of jumped in the competition ladders, the closer you get to, well, I'm in the master/professional division now.
As you should be.
And everybody there is making clothes, not costumes. So if I make a suit, it's fully lined, it's got interior pockets, it's a suit that you could, wear down the street or have professionally tailored. And I kind of like going that direction because even if I stopped cosplaying tomorrow, I have a skill set now that I possess where I could go to the fabric store, find a material I like, and make myself a really well-tailored suit. And instead of paying anywhere from $1,000 to $4,000 for a really nice, professionally tailored suit, I could do it for $200.
Do you feel better knowing that lining's there? The lining that no one will see. Does it make you feel more like you've done what you're supposed? Like it completes your cosplay.
Here's what I could tell you. I have made suit jackets without a lining. If you've ever tried to put a suit jacket on over a shirt without a lining in it, you notice a difference. Most of those little details I put in because it's A, the proper way to do it, and B, it doesn't really take that much more time or effort now. When I first started learning to do some of the more advanced tailoring techniques like pad stitching and composing the canvas that goes on the interior, appropriately lining like the pockets and doing proper welts, all that stuff. It does take time, but I'm also really fascinated and intrigued by some of the architecture that goes into that work. And it's at a point now where the most recent cosplay I did, which was a character from an anime called Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, I did a version of Lieutenant Colonel Mace Hughes for that. That outfit took 15 days to make. If I had tried that 4 years ago, it would have been months. And it's just because of repetition, practice.
And a trail of personal failure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what keeps me from sewing is I don't know if I could handle my first mistake.
So do you now, will you criticize costumes on the television or movie based on the stitch work, etc.?
No, because most of the costumes you see on television or movies are done by industry professionals who are putting in just the same amount of work that I would. If I actually, having traveled to LA a lot for cons in recent years, I've met some very talented people who do that. And one of them I know has worked as a costumer at Robot Chicken, actually, so he's making costumes for
little tiny
action
miniatures,
figures and dolls. And
nice.
a person who just beat me, actually recently, she's fielding a potential job offer from Marvel. These people go on to be professional insiders, and I know they put that amount of detail into it. But like honestly, like a show like Jessica Jones, the suits, the outfits that David Tennant wears as Kilgrave in that, Paul Smith, who's a designer out of the UK. So they actually just get a budget, and a lot of people just go and assemble clothes. If it's something you would see a character wearing just day to day, for stuff like Doctor Strange or Ant-Man, they have professional designers, and those are really well-made costumes because they have to withstand day after
rigors
day
of day-to-day
after day
filming.
Well, what about the Doctor Who? The 10th Doctor that you're kind of pretty well known for. How did they design his outfit? Did they go for obscure cloth and such things, or?
I actually know the designer's name. Her name is Lisa Page. You could see pictures of the original design notes online for his costume. Each doctor, I think, has a little bit of input as to what their doctor is going to look like, how they're going to feel, how they're going to function. For example, Peter Capaldi, when they asked, like, what are you really looking for in your doctor? One of the things he said was, I want it to be so that any kid can find the stuff laying around their house and be the 12th Doctor, which is why early on he was wearing a hoodie and like plaid pants and because he wanted people to be able to pick it up and kind of, run with it. Little kids.
Is that why he went with the sunglasses Sonic?
Right. Actually, that is one of the reasons. David Tennant's costume, he wanted to be a bit more, what's the word I want to use? A bit more fashionable, but still, action-y, I guess. And the brown suit in particular was made from old Gap trousers that they were able to get their hands on.
The Gap?
Yeah, the Gap.
Okay.
So it's funny, here in the States, it's a kind of an okay brand. You go overseas, it's actually high-end fashion. It's kind of weird how
Is
that
it
works.
different there? I mean,
No, not really.
So the Gap fashion is high fashion in Europe.
It's
Okay.
odd.
Just checking.
They found a pair of brown Gap trousers they really liked, and then just cut them up and made a suit jacket out of it to match. The long coat he wears was made from a upholstery material called Alcantara. The color way of which is still kind of a closely guarded secret. There's like maybe a handful of people who know what it is. I've been looking for years. But that's what it is. And a lot of times designers just sketch something out and say, I don't know, go find me something that looks like this. And they run with it.
Now, you've also designed costumes for other people. For example, at Gallifrey 1, a friend of yours, you designed a 10th Doctor, or I'm sorry, not a 10th. What was it? Fifth. Fifth Doctor outfit for him.
To be fair, I didn't design anything. All I did was emulate.
Okay. Gotcha.
You're a very humble man, sir.
Well, that's...
So it's very difficult for me to find time to make costumes for other people just because I'm a software developer and Bill, you working in IT kind of know the hours we keep.
Right.
It's hard to find time to do anything. But he is a friend of mine who we actually met because he cosplayed the 10th Doctor as well. And we started just randomly chatting on Instagram one day, and then out of nowhere, he's like, hey, I have an extra ticket to San Diego Comic-Con. Would you want to go? And I'm like,
Duh.
yeah. Like, of course I'd want to go. And we went, and I highly discourage anybody from ever going to San Diego Comic-Con, actually.
I am curious about that because I've gotten mixed reviews, but I would expect it to be like the Wonderland of all nerddom, but apparently it's really not.
Imagine, and for people watching on the video, you can't really see the size of this room, but picture your average size basement. To get from one end of this room to the other could take 20 minutes because of the sheer amount of people there are there. You're talking 140,000 people. And if you want to go to one panel, like the Doctor Who panel they had there this week, or a couple weeks ago, that's your entire day.
Just to get to one panel.
Just to get to one panel. You line up and you're in line for hours because everybody wants to see that panel. And then you wait all day, you get to go to the one panel. By the time the panel's over, your day is 2/3 of the way done. So if you're lucky, you might be able to go to one vendor who also has, I want to go to the BBC America booth. Well, there's 2 hours of waiting in line just to buy.
For the vendors?
Just for the vendors.
Darn.
So it's just not enjoyable. And for me, the fun part of a convention is going around, interacting with people, like seeing other people dressed.
That was the nice thing about Gallifrey 1 is that it was a very small convention, and you'd be sitting there having breakfast in the restaurant, and next to you is somebody that was in the series, one of the actors.
Series, yeah.
I'm on a bit of a tangent because I do that, but Shane had.
Shane's the guy that you designed
Shane's the guy I did
Fifth Doctor outfit for.
And he had done a few nice things for me over the years. And he said, hey, I really kind of want to do this. And I know you don't have time. but I'd really appreciate it. And I thought about it, and I said, I think I just have fun making that outfit.
Well, he did get you a ticket to Comic-Con.
Yeah.
So
Well, so you're a paid tailor now.
yeah,
I have broached I qualify just barely as a professional cosplayer because I've done a few professional gigs now.
Have you been requested by organizations to do your 10th Doctor?
No. Well, unless you count British Fest here in Omaha, but that'd be about it. My paid gigs so far have consisted of a video game publisher here in the States called NIS America. It stands for Nippon Ichi Software. They take Japanese video games, they localize them, they put them out here for people to play, and for 2 years now, I've had the fortunate opportunity to go out and do that with them.
I'm just trying to imagine that. It's like, so they go in, they take out all the tentacle monsters? It's like I just get this picture in my head of Americanizing Japanese video games, and it's like
so. A good example would be, let's see. Watashi wa nihongo hanasemasu, demo hete desu. Right? You have no idea what I just said. So localization is, hey, we have a big script of Japanese. We need to convert this to English so that American audiences can play this game and enjoy it. So they localize the menus. It's changing text. Sometimes if there's cultural references, things in the story that don't make a whole lot of sense, they might tweak small parts of the game just to make it so that it's palatable to American audience. But
so it's more than just using Google Translate.
Right.
changing like rice to sandwiches to please an American crowd.
You laugh about that, but that actually does happen.
Yeah.
In the localization. So, but. Long story short, I made the Fifth Doctor's outfit for him from scratch. So we had the pants, which are very iconic, and that horrendous stripe pattern. There's a website called Spoonflower where you can submit a pattern, and they will print the fabric for you. They're not weaving it; it's printed, but I mean it's hard to tell unless you really get up on it. So we made the pants, the dress shirt for him. I hand embroidered the question marks on the collar, redid the hat band on the Panama hat for him, so he had that, and then made the iconic Fifth Doctor's coat. And we took that to Gallifrey One and took Best in Show for construction there.
Nice.
Now, how did you arrange to get all of his measurements? Did you send him what you needed, and did you make a test outfit for him to try?
So
did you do all this by correspondence?
Yeah.
Oh man.
So here's a fun story.
Because he lives out in California.
He does. He lives in Los Angeles.
I've never gotten anything by mail that actually fits the way I want it to.
Well, he didn't either. So let me tell you a story. So it's very easy. I could measure you today and come back in 2 days with a well-fitting dress shirt for you. The problem I had with Shane was because he lived like 2,000 miles away, I can't just measure him and get the things I need. And the trousers in particular, I said, okay, give me these measurements and let me do it. And I sent him what's called a muslin fit out. Now, muslin's like a cheap fabric. It's like $2 a yard. A lot of costumers and tailors and seamstresses will use that material to do test fits out of. So I sent that out to him, and he put it on, and he sent me a picture, and he said, I had to blur out part of this photo for modesty. He goes, these do not fit. These are too tight. And he sent them back, and I said, okay, well, find a pair of pants that you have around the house and measure those. These are the things I want you to measure on it, and then send that to me, and I'll make an air draft. Now, if I had my wherewithal about me that day, I would have said, find a pair of pants that fit and mail those to me.
Right.
And then I will get the info I need off that. But brain wasn't there that day. Neglected to do that. We spent, I sent him another muslin back. Now, I'm overnighting this every time because he's a friend of mine and because we had a very tight deadline. I think I had a month and a half to do the pants, the dress shirt, the hat, and the coat.
And were you doing your own
I was redoing a tuxedo suit coat at the same time for myself. So
For the same convention.
for the same convention. So I'm trying to get all this stuff in. So I'm overnighting these things back and forth, and it shows up. It's like, it kind of fits. He goes, there's a problem. I'm like, what? And this is how he described it to me. He said, when I Captain Morgan, it's too tight.
I see it. I do.
And I went,
Are you going to do that at the con, though? I mean, are you,
Well, you
which
want to
was the
have
first question out of my mouth. Like, how much do you
Yeah.
expect to be saying there with like one leg up Captain Morgan during the convention? He's like, dude.
you just want to be comfortable. Though.
Right.
Yeah.
And
You want to have room for the boys.
we spent an hour and a half on the phone, sending pictures back and forth, talking, trying to figure out, because I'm like, okay, measure this. Is it the same as your pants? He's like, yeah, it is. There's a curve, and it's hard to describe unless you've made pants. But you know what? Actually, I can sketch out a little bit. Somebody left me a sketch.
so
pad
when
here.
did it occur to you to have him just send you pants?
Well,
how long?
so it didn't. You can't really see. There's this curve here that helps construct part of the fly. I'll let you adjust.
There
There's
you
a
go.
dotted line there.
Show that to the camera.
That curve was too shallow. That's what needed to be adjusted, because when you widen that out, it actually provided room for the upper thigh, and that's why he was having trouble with. It took us an hour and a half on the phone to figure that out. I made the adjustments. I sent them out, and here's what I told him. I said, I don't have time to do a third one. And
You'd have to
since
use
this
a
was
local
close,
tailor, yeah.
I said, I'm going to adjust this the way I think it needs to be based off of what you described to me. And I'm going to mail these out to you. And 2 days later, he messaged me back and he said, these are the best fitting pair of pants I own. And I said,
Nice.
I'm
Well
calling that a
done.
win.
Nice.
That's perfect.
I am jealous of both of you guys for going to Gallifrey 1. You went to them last time?
Yes.
Yeah, in
All
February, right?
You met some people I want to meet. That
Oh,
work
yeah.
with the Star Trek Continues.
I don't think Josh went to that panel.
No.
But
It's-
Star Trek Continues panel, yeah, and they had all the actors there and actresses.
That makes me sad I didn't go.
It was pretty interesting.
Well, you
Good
know they
panel.
have the big Star Trek convention in Las Vegas, right?
Yeah,
Well, you told me, I didn't know that they still did it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Every year. I have a buddy, Frank, I can't remember his cosplay name, but he is a dead ringer for Bones.
Oh.
Like, extremely so. And he goes every year and has a blast.
Nice.
I do know some people who have some extra tickets this year to Gallifrey,
yes.
if you're
It's
interested
true.
in going.
Linda and I aren't going this year, but we do have tickets.
You have tickets.
We have 2 tickets.
So anybody watching the podcast,
well,
if you want to
no,
harass them for tickets.
All this will take care of itself. All this will take care of itself. But
the-
yeah, I did not know about the Star Trek convention.
Yeah.
And there's a chance that I am a Trekkie. It might,
small
it
chance.
It is a small chance that
Okay.
that might be true. So, yeah, I'll have to check that out.
the
Well, I brought this because I wanted to show the crowd the little red thing on it that Comic-Con made me put a band on my phaser because it might be dangerous.
for
It could be
people
real.
that don't go conventions, that's actually called peace binding.
Yes.
And it's so the thought behind it is a lot of cosplayers have props that look
Dangerous.
incredibly realistic and dangerous, and having that brightly colored tag on it is the convention's way of letting other people know we've looked at this, we've inspected this, it's safe to be carrying around.
It's not a real phaser.
It's not a real
It's
phaser.
not a real phaser. It's not a real phaser.
I did have them try to piece bind my Sonic one year at a convention, not that convention, a different one. And I explicitly said, "Hey, look, it's a flashlight," and my particular one was $200. So you can piece bind it if you want to, but if you scratch it, you're buying me a new one. You're fine. Just go in.
Well, they piece bound a piece of wood. It's like one guy had a dagger, but it wasn't a dagger. It was just a hilt that slid in with a tiny piece of wood, and it's like they bound that.
Well, yeah, it's because from far away, if they didn't piece bind it, how do you know it's not real? That's the thought behind it. So it's not for your benefit; it's for other people.
Because I might sneak out to my car and get a real phaser.
Well,
and then that'd be bad.
You know, here's the other thing. A lot of these costumes that people wear to these events are so elaborate and so bulky and big. People could hide an arsenal in there, and nobody would know it. It wouldn't be peacebound.
Did. I can't remember if it was late last year or earlier this year. There was a convention where somebody came in dressed in, and I forget the particular costume, but the costume called for a bunch of military gear. And upon inspection, he was carrying live weaponry and ammo. And the cops had to come, and after some investigation, he was intending on causing some damage there. And they were just lucky they caught the guy. There's a reason they do metal detectors and peace binding.
I get it. I do. But it just seemed really weird to put, that. But to err on the side of caution is always best.
Yeah, but that my point being that, they peace bind the phaser thing, but then somebody with an elaborate costume may be able to slip something inside the costume that they would never even know.
And that's why larger cons anymore, particularly Anime Expo, etc. They have metal detectors, so they do check you out and make sure. One more aside, I did get one of the best compliments I've received since I started making clothes at Gallifrey One. The curator for the Doctor Who experience in the UK was there in attendance. And after the masquerade, he came up and he approached myself and Shane wearing the Fifth Doctor's outfit. And he says, well, have you ever actually seen this costume in person? I said, well, no. I've never been to the UK. I'd love to, but I've never been within 500 miles of this thing. He said, well, and he started picking at the coat and he said, the trim on the original coat is more of a nylon weave and a slightly different color. And he goes, aside from that, nailed it. And he goes, if you're here next year, I'll bring the coat with me so you can see how good you did.
Nice.
I went,
nice.
I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm happy. I'm good with that.
It's nice.
And you should be. You should be.
It's.
You've been casually brushing off compliments all day.
Well,
take it. You're awesome. We love you. Golf clap. It's all good.
It's hard sometimes. Whenever I see something I've made, I see all the things I did wrong. And which
I didn't think of that.
Anybody does that.
Right.
I do that
think
with
of that.
props I design. Yeah.
So whenever I look at a costume, I say, man, I wish I had done this differently. Man, I wish I had done that differently. Even the most recent one, when I went to the competition in Los Angeles, I said, I know this trim is not where I wanted it. And I just ran out of time. So I rolled with it. And even the judges were like, man, everything on this is immaculate. That's the thing we found fault with. So as soon as I had opportunity, I went home and tore the trim off the entire coat and then redid it. And that's, I know you said, like, I have a hard time thinking I'd be able to get through my first mistake. I'm fortunate that I'm a software developer because all I hear every day is, this code doesn't work. Here's why it doesn't work. Here's how you fix it. And if I was somebody that had a large ego or took that stuff to heart, I would have been soul crushed years ago because we're dealing with, I think the application right now that I deal with takes in about $1 million of business a day. I don't have any room to have somebody come to me and go, well, this doesn't work. Yes, it does. I mean, you just... So I have to be able to take a mistake and go, wow, you're right. We have to get this fixed. And I kind of have the same mentality with sewing and tailoring, which is whenever I see something I did wrong, sometimes I know how to fix it and sometimes I don't. And when I don't, I accept it and go, this is as good as I could do right now. I know it will be better the next time. My job between now and then is to try and find somebody that knows what I did.
You are a far better man than I am, sir. No. I like when I write academically, I submit it to people, and your friends will review it for you and give you honest criticism. And I'm like, they say this whole paragraph's unnecessary. It's like, I wrote it. It's perfect. It's like, but you don't need it. You're right. I don't need it, but it makes it all better. And it's like, I wish I could be more like you, sir.
Speaking of next time, what are you working on for your next cosplay?
I have a group thing in the works I'm not at liberty to talk about.
Okay.
I do.
Can you tell us anything about like the the
Nope.
series? No, nothing.
Nothing. I can tell you that I have been sitting on brown suit fabric to redo 10's suit for about 6 months. That's high on my list.
Is it the proper fabric?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
I'm waiting on the blue suit fabric to come in. I think that's coming in September. But have you seen Castlevania on Netflix?
No, I've heard about it.
There's a character on that, Trevor Belmont. He's, I'm not going to say vampire hunter, but like ghoul hunter. And I want to do that costume just for me. There's a anime that's been out for a long time called Cowboy Bebop. The main character in that, Spike Spiegel, I want to do that suit because it's very iconic, and I think I'd have a lot of fun with it.
I think that would fit your particular body type very well.
And then I've joked with Bill about this, but it's on my to-do list. The captain and the main villain from Forbidden Planet. I want to do those two outfits for us, just for fun.
That would be awesome to do.
You mean the Leslie Nielsen look?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah.
All right. How come nobody does that? Because that's kind of a sharp look.
And I looked at that and I'm like, I don't think that'd be terribly difficult.
No.
And I think it'd be fun. And walking around at a convention, you're talking all three people that know who that character is are going to love it.
Right.
But
Yeah, I think if you wore it, people would be rolling up on you and say, I recognize that, and steaks used to cost a nickel. Because only old people would recognize that outfit.
It would help if you're with someone dressed up as Robbie the Robot.
It's true. That
Right.
that would be more
That's
difficult
Linda.
to pull
You
off.
could always put Linda in one of those.
Just
We
give
talked
her
about
the little robot claw hands to follow around with.
John was joking that I was going to put her in an oil drum and make her a
you said you were
recurring
going to.
royal robot for the show.
We have
for the
turned
podcast.
this puck into Googlebot. And before that, Bill was saying, we're going to put Linda into a metal oil drum and make her answer questions on the air. So, yeah.
You know,
Right.
And I half believed him.
bless
I
her
did.
heart, Linda's a good
She's
sport.
a trooper. Yeah.
She is.
That there's a philosophical kind of it's always undertoned and no one's really making a contentious point about it, at least in the community right now. But there's kind of two veins of cosplaying. There's with what I would call the normalization of comic book movies, right? Marvel really brought comics and conventions into the mainstream. If you look at the size of any comic book convention now compared to where it was 10, 15 years ago.
Even Comic-Con, yeah.
It's vastly different. There's been good and bad that has come with that. Cosplay for me is, hey, I love this character. And if I see a person at a convention in what's clearly just a suit they got at Goodwill and some random looking brown trench coat, but wearing 3D glasses and tennis shoes, I'm like, that guy's into the 10th Doctor. We could totally have a conversation for an hour.
Right.
And really just like geek out about it. And I'm excited to go talk to those people.
He doesn't have to have
'Cause you
serious
both have-
thumb infections
Well,
from
you
the
both
sewing.
you both have the same passion about the character and the show.
Absolutely. And that's always been kind of the joy of cosplaying, which is you immediately recognize when somebody loves and is into the same things you are.
Right.
There's a flip side of that now, which is people who are really just using that as kind of a backdoor entry into here's hoping I can get famous. And these are...
Cosplay is getting famous?
There are...
Nerd culture is getting famous.
Well, a little bit of both. There's a lot of cosplayers out there right now who have a lot going for them that I don't, which is being young and pretty but they
if you're not young and pretty, what are we?
Yeah.
It's like there's a table of old and ugly here that you're talking to.
but these are kids who are I'm going to just latch on to whatever's really popular and see if I can't throw something together to get more followers. And that's really what it's about, is I just need to get more followers. And they set up Patreon, and they have private photo shoots you can purchase, and more power to these folks. I mean, if that's a means of income and a way to get your name out there, I'm happy for you. What gets lost a little bit along the way is that love for the source material.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can go up and talk to somebody and be like, oh my God, like you're dressed as this character from the show I love. And they go, oh, I'm not really into this character. It's just, this is something I threw together. And there's that disappointment there, because these used to be safe spaces, right? These were the places I could go and be geeky and nerd out and
meet with like-minded people.
Yeah, and know, like, I could talk about random Star Trek obscure trivia, and no one's going to judge me for it. Yeah. And as that more mainstream culture's kind of...
Are you talking about non-local cons more than local cons?
No, not necessarily.
I haven't run into any of that elitism. I had a guy at Comic-Con last year rolled up on me with a rusted trike, and I looked at him and was like, that's Miri. That's Star Trek Original Series Miri. And he did a perfect character from that, and it's just, it was awesome. But it's like, I haven't run into any elitists.
I think it really just depends. I have seen it more out of state at some of the larger conventions. And you see it even with the Doctor Who community. It gets vicious. People talk about, well, you can't wear that. It's not screen accurate. Like, oh, that's good. That's close, but it's clearly inferior to whatever. And I've never understood that elitism, because to me, it feels like, particularly growing up and being into sci-fi, fantasy, comic books, reading a lot, you tend to catch flack from a lot of people I would consider like mainstream society. Mm-hmm. And to suddenly turn around and have these people who used to suffer alongside you now criticize you for this thing that you're supposed to all love and enjoy. I'm like,
right.
I don't understand the mentality there, and it feels like we're eating our own.
So we should be encouraging each other to do this kind of stuff, because it only makes the movement larger and stronger, and encourages people to do more of it. Because part of it, obviously, is the enjoyment of watching the show. But there's a huge enjoyment factor in sharing that love with other people, talking about what you loved about a particular episode or a particular character and why, that I think, really makes people enjoy it. I mean, we've been sitting down and we've been watching The Expanse, and, everybody has access to it. They could sit.
Well, everyone who wants to go through that paywall,
right? But
we do.
But you guys do. We do. And any of us could sit and watch it all the way to the end. But we choose not to. We choose to wait and watch it with each other.
Yes.
Because we enjoy the talking about as we're watching.
I have
it, right?
all of them at home, and I could watch them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I said, thanks for inviting me, Bill.
Hey, I've been trying to get you to watch The Expanse for years.
We just hang and have fun. And in fact, we're going to do that after we're done here. You're more than welcome to. It wouldn't make much sense to you at this point.
Well, no. Like believe it or not, of all things, as soon as I get out of here, I'm running to the fabric store. So,
I had a question about this elitism. And is elitism the right word to use? Because every once in a while, like especially when I'm at Comic-Con, I run into people that I say, can I take a picture? Because I run around taking pictures all the time. Sure. And they say you can, but you can't publish it. And so I'm assuming these people have a brand, that their look is their brand. And what is that?
Because
you obviously have a brand. I mean, a little bit, just a tiny bit.
No.
But you're not capitalizing on it in terms of
I don't
making it yours.
And this is a personal decision. I do not feel comfortable asking people to fund my hobby. Because that's what it is. This is something I do for fun. And for me to turn around and say, well, hey, like, I really need money to make this cosplay or do whatever.
Our toys cost money, people. They do.
Well, yeah, but this is something that I'm just fortunate enough that I have found a love for, and It's a personal decision. You know, other people feel more comfortable asking for that help, and more power to them. Like I said, I'm never going to disparage somebody for trying to make an income doing something they love.
Indeed.
With cosplay, there's a handful of rules to follow when taking pictures of somebody.
Oh, yes.
One, never take a picture of a cosplayer when they're eating or drinking or on their phone. That's a
I
private.
always ask
Yeah.
before I take any pictures. So
It's a private real world moment, and you know, as much as well, I'm going to lead that into number 2, which is, you know, usually let them know you're going to take a picture, because they put all this effort into making this creation,
put
and
on
if
their
you're
gloves, hold their
sneaking
weapon
a
right.
picture
Yeah, it's like you're not going to get it.
20 feet away, you're not going to get them posed and proper looking. And so that's what a lot of it is, which is like, hey, I'd really like to give you the best picture I can. Give me a heads up, and I'll do a pose or
Put my
whatever.
all into it.
Put my all into it, or in Bill's case, just
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. You get this grim look, like
Yes.
yeah.
Well,
like
I am
your-
the war doctor. I've seen a lot of.
like your tooth is hurting
I've
again.
seen a lot of bad things.
I've seen, and I think this is a recent development. I went to a convention in Des Moines where there was a cosplayer walking around, and whenever somebody asked to take a picture of them, they said, "Well, that'll be $5."
Oh wow.
And I've never seen that before, and I don't think I've seen it since. But generally, and they weren't a guest of the convention. They weren't. It was just a random person walking along, and I'm like, you know, if people are willing to pay that, then I guess there's a business opportunity there. But
no.
I
It makes all the other cosplayers seem lesser. It's
well, I don't think it's that. It's that particular individual thought that was a good opportunity for them, and I really try not
to judge.
Well,
Because I'm being judgy right now. I know that I am.
I'm an ENTJ. Believe me, the propensity is there to be super judgmental. But I'm also philosophically Buddhist, so I try to just kind of let people live their lives and
Go with the flow.
go with the flow on things. The closest I've come to try and monetizing anything, like we've got a convention coming up next weekend. I will have prints for sale. But that's mostly hey, I have to pay the photographers to get the rights to use those photos, and I have to pay to get those photos printed. That is me basically just trying to recoup the cost of having to do all that.
It's not a profit thing.
No, it's not a profit thing. It's hey, if you want a picture of me or just want me to pose for a picture, dude, I'll do that for free anytime. But if you want like one of these nice prints I have, then $5.
Right.
I always get a picture of you every time, every con I get a shot at, and I will at British Fest.
Even the ones I'm not at.
Yep. Sometimes, I almost think that there should be a cardboard cutout of you.
Just keep your blinds
places.
closed at night in case John's out there with a camera.
Yeah. If you see a flash, it's me.
Shane, who I talked about earlier, we had for a while where people were tagging him in photos and saying, "Hey, Josh, I saw you at this convention." I'm like, "Yeah, we all us 10th Doctor cosplayers kind of look alike, don't we?" That's kind of the point.
I don't think that you're capitalizing. You're providing a service. You're recouping expenses for that service without actually making a profit.
Yeah, and that's basically what it is, which is
that $5 thing you just said kind of disgusts me personally. I'm not going to talk about the overarching ethics of a guy just saying, "You can take my picture for $5," but I feel I'm lucky to wear the Jedi outfit. And I'm in a cosplay troupe, the 402nd Guardians. We go do charity events, autism walks, cystic fibrosis stuff, children's hospital stuff, and make money for these charities. But I get to do that while doing what I love. And it's like, I feel that what they're doing is privatizing. That's not the word I'm looking for, but
Commercializing.
yeah, commercializing. It's like what should be, like you said, a hobby. This is fun. I get to wear a Jedi outfit while helping kids. It's like
I look at it this way. Often what we tell young folks is, if you do what you love, you won't work hard a day in your life. And these are people that
Very
have
true.
found a way to take something they enjoy and make money doing it. And I'm not going to tell anybody, young or old, if you have found something you love and you're able to make money off it and you're able to put food on your table and a roof over your head, you know what? You're living the dream at that point. More power to you.
Well, and there may be those that want to do it and get into it, but they don't have the disposable income that others of us have that are older and have been in the job market for a while.
Yeah, it's easy to be judgmental if you can afford
Sure.
to do it.
Right.
on your own.
Perhaps my
But if you're a
position
poor
of
college
privilege
student,
allows me to do that.
Right.
But it's like to me, it seems like the guy's like, I will work for food, kind of thing. Yeah,
Well,
I'll cosplay for you
The other
for
thing is
$5.
what character was it that you saw that?
I'm not.
No, I don't mean the actor, but just
The genre.
I'm just
I-
because like if it's a really really good guy
Was it? Yeah.
who
Was
now's
it? Was
hitting
it?
you up for $5,
Was
it's
it
different
Was
than
it a
when
good
it's
cosplay?
I will say that for what it was, I could see how they were able to monetize it. However,
Okay.
I'm not going to provide any more identifying information.
That is fair. That's
but-
right. I'm just wondering if there's actually. It's like not like someone just like found an online
No,
plastic
no.
costume.
No, this is somebody who put effort into it on their own. I think Bill raises a good point, which is I'm a software developer, which has led to being able to do having a bit more capital to do things that other people my age aren't necessarily able to do, or other people who are into this hobby aren't able to do. And cosplay's expensive. It really is.
You don't have to tell me that.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
I'm eyeballing here, but if I had to put a price tag on that, I would say that's $100 in props just sitting on the table.
Yeah, it
there.
is. It is about 100. But my lightsaber alone costs 500.
Oh yeah.
So it's like that's like it. But
Right.
it's worth it to me.
Yeah.
But again, like I have the income that I can do that.
Well, and I think a lot, particularly, folks that are in their late teens or early 20s, like I remember just struggling to get by at that age. And if somebody had said, hey, not only can you do this thing you really enjoy, but people are going to pay you to do it, I would have jumped at the opportunity.
Yeah. And if you can use that money to invest it back into the thing you love.
Well, and that's I think, you had raised a good point about the charity, and I know Bill and I have done the Autism Puzzle Walk
I was there with
for
you
2
guys,
years.
And we got a
now
deal
and then.
coming up in a couple of weeks, don't we?
Oh yeah, we
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
I forgot.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that in a minute? When
Yeah.
I need your help to
But
remember that.
it's not much
Okay.
different. I mean, if you could look at it like I've listened to street musicians and I don't go thank you and just watch. If I sit there and listen,
Yeah.
then I'm
And then
throwing
you throw some money.
throw
in
some
the-
money. If I'm
Then you've seen me, my Jedi. Give me money.
good.
You looked at my Jedi and you just
No, you
walked
can't.
I
away.
actually
can't
just kinda
charge 'em in
passed
the
by, but
past.
yeah.
Hey, that did happen to me once. Just a small story.
And technically, I've held your saber.
Linda
too.
and I were on our honeymoon, and we're
Money.
on our honeymoon, and we're down in some Caribbean island somewhere. It was a cruise, and so we're going around on this tour that we paid for, and we stop at this one point. And it's a beautiful vista view of this harbor, on this island, and there's a guy there with a burro, and the burro's got authentic bags on it. It looks like it's right out of the Juan Valdez, whatever thing. And so the guy's like, oh, would you like to have your picture taken? And because I had a nice camera that I brought with me, and this guy's like, well, I'll take your picture, And so Lynn and I are like, yeah, okay, fine. So we go up there and stand by the burro, and he takes our picture. And then before he hands the camera back, he says, $20, please.
Yep.
To get the camera back, or
For him taking the picture and implying that you want your camera back, you pay me for taking the photo.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. So
Steep.
I gave him the $20 because
It's easier.
I didn't want to get in a
You couldn't talk
big
him into
argument.
throwing in the burrow?
What's that?
Said you couldn't talk him into throwing in the burrow?
It might have been tough getting him on the ship.
Yeah,
but-
you could have grabbed his burro and said,
yeah, the burro's mine. $50 for your burro.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can't. Charging people after the thing's a dick move.
well, I'm sorry you had a bad experience with that, but hey,
Right,
You saw my lightsaber too, so you owe me money.
It's a very nice lightsaber.
money. I want money from all of you.
I actually have quite a few friends now who I would say are professional cosplayers, and it's for these folks. Well, particularly a lot of them, they are providing a service along with it. A good example I would give is a friend of mine, Papa Bear Cosplay.
Oh, yeah, I ran into him at Comic-Con.
Yeah,
He's a nice guy.
Super nice guy. He puts a lot of effort into his costumes,
Yeah,
but
he does.
he also provides a service for these conventions. He runs panels, he does demonstrations. And if I have no idea what his primary source of income is, but just based off the services he's providing, I'm like, that guy absolutely is earning like his keep.
He had an advertisement that the week after that he's in South Dakota, and he's like all over the place. So this must be. I mean, I don't know what else he could do. Really.
He also, small shout out, just had a small documentary put up about him on Sci-Fi, which is worth watching
on the Sci-Fi
channel.
Nice.
Yep.
All right, I'll check that out.
But
nice.
I'll
post that to my nerd site. So yeah.
Well,
cool.
But that's why I said like I don't like judging people because you never know what somebody's situation is. You don't know what they do for a living during the day, and I'm not going to turn around and tell somebody just based off of their very catered social media interaction that clearly like there's something shady going on or I don't think it's worth it. I mean, they clearly found an audience. They clearly found a market, and good for them.
No, I have nothing against cosplayers asking for money, but I do. The guy who's asking for $5 for a picture seems to go against convention. And if this is how things should be, then shouldn't conventions say that we?
Generally, like I said, I think that was a one-off, and I don't expect to see a whole lot of that just because I imagine conventions would quickly put a stop to that unless they were a guest, in which case that's a very catered experience and where, you're going to see the professional cosplayer. And I...
Would that make them a vendor then, and the con would have to have control of all vendors of some kind? Or?
I don't know how that works, to be honest. I've never been on that end of that contract.
If it was common,
could be.
Yeah, if it was common, it'd probably become just like a cruise where either the booze is included or it's not.
Right.
You
always pay for that package. I mean,
yeah. But I mean, it's like if that was the case, a large portion of my enjoyment would go out because I'm not going to pay $5 to every cosplayer.
I actually read there was a convention. I want to say this was last year that banned cosplay from the convention of all forms. Said no cosplay will be allowed here.
What con was that?
God, I wish I could remember the name of it. I want to say it was in the Southeast.
Did anyone go?
Yeah, their big take was this is a comic book convention, and we want people to focus on being here for the guest and the artist and the comics and
that too.
And when you read it, they made really good sense in a really poorly thought out argument, and they didn't acquiesce, if I remember right, and they said, and obviously there were people who didn't go at that point because they said, well, the whole reason I want to go is because I want to dress up.
I'm serious. I wouldn't go. And it's like, well, would you?
Yeah, I think it depends on, like, Gallifrey 1. If Gallifrey 1 said, hey, we don't want people cosplaying here, but we'd still provide everything else, I'd probably still go just
for
because...
the guest.
For the guests, for the experience, for the merchandise. I'm going to that convention because of the service they provide.
How many cons do you do a year?
A lot less than I have been.
Well, but that's just it. If all of a sudden one of them says no cosplay, all of a sudden your venue, you could easily insert another con into that slot.
Maybe.
Depending on the nature. Like if it's an all Doctor Who con.
I think I can see it. I can go to a con without... I might go for, it's like going to a writer's workshop or something. I want to go meet the writers. I want to go meet the creators.
Actually,
I don't necessarily want to dress up.
I'm going to take that as I'm going to see you at British Fest. I'm going to see you at British Fest, aren't I?
But I'm probably not dressing.
That's fine.
Well,
you don't
that's
have
fine.
here's
Yeah, people don't care.
A lot of people don't.
We
I
had
do
talked
because I like
earlier
it.
about how there's good and bad that comes with the normalization of some of this. And cosplay has really kind of brought in some mainstream folks who just want to get dressed up and show off and aren't necessarily there for the creators or the artist. And I think if you as a convention say, look, we're paying money to have these guests in, to bring these artists in, to bring these vendors, and we want the focus to be on them, I could see them making that argument and say, we're trying to cut down on some of the outside noise. We really want you to focus on the convention while you're here. I could see that. E3 for a while was closed off to the public, and it was just industry insiders and the press, because what they realized was when they opened it to the general public, it became more about having the general public have a good experience than it was about talking about the video games, talking about these innovations they have coming up. And they said, we don't like the direction this is going. This is starting to really degrade the experience.
Kind of the other way completely.
They have. And I think a lot of it's market driven. We're kind of hitting...
I got to say, you're the best guest we've ever had. I just want to say, you're awesome.
And the only.
Yeah, but I think there's now a really high bar. So it's like...
You've heard the term peak oil, right?
No.
Peak oil, and Bill, correct me if I'm wrong here, is basically once we hit peak oil, then
The amount of oil available
Only
drops.
decreases.
Yeah.
Right.
you're over the hill.
I think we've hit peak convention. We are saturated with conventions. You can pick any weekend. There is one going on somewhere here in the States that's within driving distance from you. I'm going to 2 in August alone, and August used to be a slow month. The problem with that is that the market's so overtly saturated right now that attendance is starting to drop.
I think British Fest's having a problem with that.
And
So, yeah.
well, I think even Comic-Con, just for the looks of it this year, felt a little more empty.
It seemed a little empty, yeah.
And a lot of that is just because there's so many options in the marketplace that people don't know where they want to go to. And Wizard World's a good example. Wizard World has a convention in a new town almost every 2-3 weeks. And I know when I went to the one in Des Moines, it was almost a ghost town there. And it got to the point where on the last day they said, if you have a ticket and want to bring a friend for free, go ahead. Because they're trying to get people in the door.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the vendors and guests have, I forget the actual term, but they have guarantees, which is if you don't sell this many autographs or whatever and hit this dollar amount, we're going to pay you. And the convention's really hoping they don't have to do that, so they're trying to get people in the door.
I did not know that.
I think in the next 5 years, people are going to get kind of tired of the superhero movies. They're going to get tired of the oversaturation, and you're going to see that attendance and that popularity drop. It's never going to be back to where it was, but I think you're going to see it level off, at which point it will start to become more about people who really want to go there for the material, for the artists.
But the normalization of cosplay
creators.
will still be there. It's become a facet. Whether or not cons like it, it's going to be something that
I think you're going to see that drop off to whatever the next big opportunity is. Technology is always changing, and the reason cosplay has really found its foothold has been it is a good way to hit how do I want to put this? Geeks have disposable income.
Yes. Oh, so
and
it's a PT.
It's a good way to liberate them of that.
People have found that it is a good market to... Again, you got $100 worth of merchandise there. If I talked about my Doctor Who collection, just cosplay stuff, $5 to $10 grand.
These are the ones that
Easily.
I'll wear.
Yeah.
It's like I've got several that are not cosplay respectable to me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But...
So I've been built by the cosplay industry willingly.
Right, but that's how cosplay is that a lot of people have found a market where they can dress up and sell their brand, their product, and make money off it. And I think in
I'm actually mad about Orville, the Orville show, that they have not created enough cosplay that I can buy it. And I don't want to make it. But it's like I think they're gonna wait till
Etsy.
they roll out. I went there. And they don't
you can
have
find some good stuff.
I can find some good stuff, but I honestly think that the cosplayers who are making this stuff want to wear it for a season before they start offering it. So,
I think it just depends. I know a few people. I might be able to help you out.
Well,
but
you couldn't help me out with King Bradley, but you can help me out with Orville. Okay, I'll live with that. That's cool.
I gave you a suggestion.
King Bradley, Full Metal Alchemist character. No, I appreciate that. I came off sounding snide, but I really do appreciate what you said.
I just wanted to note we're at the hour mark here, so probably need to wrap it up.
I'll talk fast. The point I was trying to make is I think we've hit peak saturation. As people move on to whatever the next big thing is, you will see that market start to drop. And you will see some of those people abandon this for money-making ventures that will be easier. In which case, then it will kind of taper off back to what it used to be, which is people who are just in it for the love of doing it.
Which is me and you and Bill.
Sometimes.
And probably Charles
And
at some point.
And Audie.
Audie
But
did.
speaking of John and
Speaking
Josh
of me, and
whatever my name is.
he forgot your name. He literally forgot
I
your
looked
name.
at him and blanked out.
Oh my God.
The three of us are going to be doing cosplay Saturday, August 11th, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's going to be a benefit to help Title I families, which includes students or families residing at area shelters and agencies, etc. And this will be the first time they've done the event. So they're looking for cosplayers of all stripes to come down and strut their stuff and help them raise funds for these families. So we're going to be doing it, and we'll be reaching out to
You're gonna be
others
the
in the community.
War Doctor?
I'm going to be the War Doctor.
I'll be Jedi. I'll be the Jedi.
What are you doing, Josh?
Oh, yes.
A 10.
10th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Are you bringing the TARDIS?
No.
Did you ever get that fixed? Cause
No, I haven't yet. There's, at some point, I think I'm going to have a second one built. And that was my shout out to my brother-in-law, Keith's Woodshop. That was the first TARDIS he ever built. And so.
Very nicely done.
Yeah. No, he did a fantastic job. There's a few things I think we found through general use of set up and tear down repeatedly that we want to reinforce and do differently on Model 2.
Enhancements.
So, eventually. Someday.
Is there any thought of him actually selling those commercially?
If you want to order one from him, I'm sure he'd build you one.
Something to think about. Well, the problem
I just saw your eyes light up, man.
Well,
I did.
I would have always wanted to have one, but
Not only would
where-
he build you one, he'd
Yeah.
build you whichever model one you wanted.
well, of course, you know what I would want.
Hartnell?
Where would you put it? Would you put it in the backyard or what?
No, that is the problem. Is that
yeah.
I don't have the space for it. Now, what I have thought of doing
Are we?
is we're over a little bit.
Do we
We're
just
ru-
want to do an extra long one?
we're
Because
running-
there's a
Let's
lot
do
of
a
stuff
little
we
longer.
want to
We're
cover.
running
Yeah, let's
long.
go
It's
ahead.
all good. We'll do it.
I have thought of just building one like it's stuck in the wall, and just having the face of the TARDIS.
I
sticking
think
out of
that
the
door
basement.
right there, if you did it right,
Yeah.
would look fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something to think about.
It's true.
Yeah.
Didn't you? Weren't there other like?
Yeah,
I
there's
feel
some
like
other
about-
stuff. We'll just get to a few things I just wanted to mention on this show. Is
Sorry,
that
I'm chatty.
that's
No,
right.
no,
No, we
well,
appreciate it.
This is this is what people want to listen to. They don't want to listen to old people talk about things behind paywalls all the time, which is what we seem to do.
Well,
you
Well, actually, yeah.
I mean-
for example, our last show, we probably pissed off a lot of people
yes.
by talking about discrimination.
puppies.
The sad puppies. Do you know what the
I-
sad puppies are?
I have. Here's my take on it. I am aware of enough of it to know it's a thing, and aware of it enough to go. Yeah, I just want to read books. I'm staying out of it.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't. So it's like we're probably gonna get some.
we
major-
Well, it was nice
yeah.
seeing you.
Yeah.
We touched on it.
Really?
But anyway, I wanted to talk about some stuff coming out soon. Actually, in December, there's a new movie coming out, Alita Battle Angel, which looks very good. That'll be at the theaters. And series is set in the post-apocalyptic future. It focuses on Alita, who is a cyborg who has lost all memories and is found in a garbage heap by a cybernetics doctor. What are the odds? I mean, if you're a cybernetics doctor, you're probably always going through garbage heaps.
Well, they explain that.
Well,
There's
Okay.
it's a little probably more common. Than
In the
with-
post-apocalyptic future,
well, it's
that
just
would
like
make
it's
sense.
just like everybody's an
Let me-
engineer now.
how much backstory do you want here? Because I can actually explain why he's digging through the trash without.
Yes,
I think.
let's.
Will it ruin
I
it?
want to hear about.
I don't
it's
want to
okay.
ruin it.
I'm okay.
I-
Well,
I'm
you
not
guys
gonna-
cover your ears.
All right. I'm not gonna just flash spoilers on the screen. It's not like a huge spoiler. This is the setting for this is there's a city floating above them in the clouds, and that is where all the affluent folks live.
Okay.
And the city below in which you find the Doctor is it's basically
Post-apocalyptic
where all their
hellhole.
refuse comes, and they don't have a whole lot in the way of supplies. So when he's digging through the trash, that's actually
He's
a
looking
means
for
of him
spare parts.
for spare parts. That's where he finds that because it is literally the stuff they're throwing away from the
Cloud
affluent
City.
cloud city above.
Gotcha.
So everything that they show you in that trailer will make sense in context.
Gotcha.
So the underlying theme is stratification. Those that have not.
But he sounds like he had a doctorate in the liberal arts.
Well, he
Sorry.
I didn't know. I just like liberal artists can actually make robots.
Well, no, but he's living down below the Cloud City.
well.
Is he living there or is he just scavenging there?
That is actually a plot point. I don't want to give that away.
Okay, well then we won't do that. But
I could tell you as somebody that grew up on the original anime and the manga, it is absolutely worth seeing. If they're true to the source material, it's going to be exciting, violent, and have some really good philosophical questions that come along with it. Particularly with James Cameron, seeing what he's done with just about everything he's touched.
Yeah.
If I ever got excited about a realistic adaptation of a cartoon or manga source material, it's this. I'm crazy excited for this movie. It's been in development for almost 20 years.
so,
Wow.
So-
right, are they going to make this and we have to wait 10 years for part 2, 3, 4, and 5
Well,
like they're doing with Avatar?
I
or-
could tell you that Alita's there's 2 manga series that came out. There was and in Japan it's called Gun M, but here in the States they have Battle Angel Alita and then Battle Angel Alita New Order. And I'm pretty sure that this covers the first story arc. The second story arc is something entirely different. I'll be curious to see if they touch it with a
Delve
future
into it.
movie. I think a lot of it will depend on how this is received. But I cannot tell you how excited I am for this.
I
Like
will
I'm
be there.
doing Italian hands and everything.
Nice.
Like it's
You are, yeah.
high on my list.
It's going to be a good movie.
So that'll be out in December. And then following that, there's a new sci-fi series.
On a real quick note,
Yeah.
is there such a thing as a non-post-apocalyptic future? Because that seems to be all the futures that they seem to be rolling
Star
out.
Trek.
Well, it's not that bad if you're one of the elite
Yeah, but
living
Star
in the
Trek takes
clouds.
place
But-
after World War III.
Are you?
Well, true.
Well, which version of Star Trek?
Well, I'm not.
Which universe are we talking about? The J.J. Abrams one? The
Well, J.J.
both
Abrams
of
would be
them.
after World War III, the post-apocalyptic, because
Yeah.
it's Kirk's
And
era.
Discovery Universe, which is Prime, they just went through some serious stuff with the Klingons.
True.
And Tarantino's Star Trek, I think, is going to give us a whole new interesting
Yeah.
idea about what Star Trek is.
Yeah, I think that could be interesting.
quick question, since this is the right group to ask about this, and this is something I've been curious about with J.J. Abrams' reboot.
Yeah.
It's very clear that Kronos has been destroyed, right? You see it
Yeah.
in the movie. And
In the Abrams universe,
yeah,
the Kronos has been.
You're talking about
the
Vulcan.
moon on Klingon.
Well, Vulcan was destroyed.
No, the moon on Klingon. So if
Praxis.
Praxis.
Sorry. If
That wasn't Abrams, though.
because
Yeah.
Undiscovered Country, right? That
Yeah.
was the
That's the
catalyst for
original
them.
universe.
The
to-
whole premise of that was Praxis being destroyed. The Klingons wanting to talk
If
peace.
you go back and rewatch the movies, when they show the Klingon home planet, that moon has been destroyed or starting to collapse. So that's taking place, and in the original movies, that was the catalyst for them joining the Federation, or at least coming to a peace treaty.
Which movie? Was it Beyond?
I want to say
where,
no. I want to say it was
Was it the Benedict
Into Darkness.
Cumberbatch?
Into
Yeah,
Darkness.
Yeah, okay.
When they visit the Klingon home planet.
I will take a look at that.
Go
But,
back
yeah.
and rewatch it and look for that, and you'll
I
see
will.
that moon's starting to collapse.
All right.
I particularly was disappointed because they did that whole setup they talked about in the first movie with the Klingons, talk about in the second movie, and it just feels like they haven't addressed it at all.
The moon?
Since.
No, just the tension with the Klingons. It's always on the outskirts, like so.
Yeah.
Yes. Especially after, and Beyond, they basically invaded Klingon space and nobody did anything.
Well, and one of the things I always enjoyed
I'm
about
going to get up and leave.
Oh, all right. You got to head out.
Personal reasons.
Okay, that's fine.
I think he's got to go to the bathroom.
I'll
let you out.
Well, one of the things that I always enjoyed about Star Trek was the politics, which is probably not a popular answer, but
No, it is for
I
me.
think it
I
is,
agree.
yeah.
seeing how the different races or different civilizations interact and the different accords they've had to come to, and the politics between the Romulans and everybody, that was always interesting for me. And so the Abrams movies, I've been like, man, that's really just kind of non-existent.
Well, that's because I feel it's more generated for, and this may sound like a cop-out, but millennials who want more flashy things, which is kind of what the Abrams universe is. It's very fast-paced, fighty, a lot of firing of guns and driving of
it's
motorcycles for some reason.
Catered to a more general audience, yeah.
Well,
Sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack.
No,
you,
that's
Bill, I'm
okay.
sorry.
So,
But I mean, the cerebralness of the original series, I don't know, it's not that original series people were more intelligent. It's that they had probably had to act more. So
Yeah,
you had
just
to
didn't
use
have
your
that.
imagination more, and therefore, it's not a
couldn't
flaw
rely
in
on the
millennials.
CGI and
Yeah,
There's only so much you could do with little plastic models and wire.
yeah, right.
but yeah, the most important part about the Klingons in the JJ verse seems to be the new little rings they have in their ridges, rather than anything having to do with Klingon culture. But no, I dig where you're coming from on that.
I'm just, and maybe I'm wrong in this, but I swear if you go back and watch Into Darkness, that
I will.
moon is either destroyed or in the process of collapsing.
Well, maybe it was supposed to, because it's like in the Prime universe, it's only 15 years at that point away from destruction.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe it was getting ready to anyway. But I mean, I will take a look.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the other thing I wanted to mention is there's a new sci-fi series on YouTube Premium, which is another paid
paywall.
service. But
Where would we be without paywalls?
it
This
follows-
whole podcast would be impossible without paywalls.
right, it follows a 16-year-old girl named Henrietta, or Henry, as she's called in the series, who discovers she has the ability to teleport. The first time she realizes this, she's in a truck with her high school's golden boy who tries to rape her. She has a seizure and teleports, and in the course of which she inadvertently crushes him, leaving him a paraplegic. The show goes on to explore Henry's need to reconcile what her assaulter tried to do with the consequence, and her feelings about discovering she can teleport with her feelings about the assault.
Now I'm gonna make a point of contention with you,
Yeah.
Bill, and I want you to I want you to defend this. Why is that sci-fi?
I told you that. I said
Yeah,
when you
yeah,
showed us the
well-
clip, it's not sci-fi, it's horror.
It says
It's
okay,
a horror genre movie.
Well,
dude.
this was the article that came out and it said it's a new sci-fi series on YouTube. That's what YouTube's marketing it as.
I'm not picking on you, Bill. I'm just curious as to what your
well,
take
she
on
can
it is.
teleport.
I wonder
it's
who said
teleportation.
that.
Well, but is that sci-fi or is that fantasy? Because to me, that'd be more the fantasy realm, particularly if it's something that
Well, yeah,
she's not.
exactly. Are the X-Men sci-fi? Because they have teleporters.
I would
but
put that
yeah.
more in fantasy.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we do fantasy
fantasy
here.
Yeah, we do. We do.
But the article I read specifically stated YouTube considers it a sci-fi series.
all right.
So
I don't,
some sort
don't
of
believe everything
evolutionary
YouTube
mutation.
tells you, man.
That
Right.
can still be.
well,
Because science doesn't have to be mechanical.
Just watching
Yeah.
that clip, it's obviously not. It's not. You could make a fantasy
But I think
horror
we all thought that
relation
it
to
looked,
it, but
it looked horror.
it's horror like. It's like
Right.
if you saw the clip, you would
I-
see that it has more of a horror overtone.
I don't know if I would put that in horror. To me, that's just more. There is.
Do you want to show the clip?
he saw it.
Well, there's
He was here.
There's a
Was he?
Yeah.
there's a line, right? Fantasy on one end and sci-fi on the other, and I would put that more towards the fantasy side.
Yeah.
But it's. And we were talking about this a little earlier. There really isn't a whole lot that's hard sci-fi
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
Right.
Even Star Trek, I would say, is closer to fantasy than sci-fi, depending on the series you're watching. Just because, while they do try to put science in it. A lot of it is just kind of stuff they're throwing at the
it's
wall.
like
and
warp
and-
drive is a myth. It doesn't exist.
Well-
Impulse
but
engines,
that's all
phasers.
But science fiction
Well-
was supposed to be.
It's postulations on science, but
I think where Star Trek gets deeper into the fantasy elements is some of the way like the alien races interact and some of the motivations. There is a
There's every so often they run into some gods.
yeah.
That's
right.
fantasy. Yes.
I
But
don't
they
want
run
to talk
into-
about that movie.
empaths and things like that.
But
and it's
like Doctor Who, for example, right? People would want to say that's sci-fi, but when you can solve every problem with your MacGuffin magic wand,
Yeah.
and your MacGuffin paper. You forgot about
you
the
know,
MacGuffin paper.
Yeah.
that's more in the fantasy element.
Right.
But that's actually, that's what you want, though. It's like,
Yeah.
after this history of Doctor Who, you realize, you want the MacGuffin.
Well,
in
yeah,
Doctor
but-
Who.
Well, yeah. I didn't mind the sunglasses.
I didn't either. I
didn't
thought
either.
that was weird, but it's like, it's a new thing. Switch it up. It's like this whole new series.
My favorite
new
part
Doctor.
my favorite part of the sonic glasses was when they were picked up by the first Doctor, and he's putting them on. And he's looking around, and he says, "What sonic glasses?" He doesn't like the idea, and the 13th Doctor says, "Oh, you'll love them. You'll learn to love them." And then the first Doctor says, "What is browser history?" And he reaches over and grabs them, snatches them off his head.
Okay. I'm just throwing this out there. It's just a little PG-13 topic, but this was something I was in a discussion with friends about the other day. The Doctor is thousands of years old.
Yeah.
I thought he was 900 years old.
No.
No?
Current, I mean, depending on your version of canon, we're talking either thousands or billions now.
Right.
This is a person, and I suppose I use that term loosely when talking. This
being.
This is a being that has access to all of the universe throughout all of time.
Yeah.
Any
Perversion.
that he may have.
Wait, no, that's the word you say, and you're saying yes. That's
I was
what
gonna
I was
say
looking for. It's
I was going to say.
I know. I can tell where he's going.
Predilection is
Yeah,
that the word?
yeah.
Anything that this being might be into, they could find an appropriate time and place where that would be catered to. And you have to think, if you've lived for thousands of years,
Right. It's sort of the theory
it just
that if
makes you
it's on
wonder
the
what Rose was into. I'm just saying.
it's sort of
Yeah.
the same thing that if it exists or if it's on the internet, there's porn of it or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But if it's
I always
But
just
if
had
it's
to
a-
laugh.
if
I'm
you have
like,
access to all of time and space,
And yet you go to New Earth in the future where people are dying of horrible diseases. So,
Well, no, I see it, but it's like-
being
it's like
tended to by cat people. So, yeah.
The 70s had certain proclivities, right, that were probably introduced, I'm presuming.
Yeah.
But yeah, a billion years ago,
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. It's like
Or-
there's if I mean, think about just food, right? You have all of creation throughout all of time. You could eat the best meals. But after a while, you're gonna say, "Well, I've eaten literally all of history's best steaks. Where do I go from here?"
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
That's
would be
that's
sad.
kind
Well,
of
you
the way
just
of
well,
you
that's
just
the
stick
whole
with the
living-
best,
but
because
but
then
when
you don't have
every
to sample.
It's yeah, you're an IT person. You
Yeah.
understand this mentality. When everything's a high priority, nothing is.
Right.
Right. When everything's the best, nothing is.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you continue to?
I think he'd have to start hunting
Entertain
extinct
yourself.
animals and cooking them
Yeah.
himself.
Where do you find the entertainment? That's the quintessential problem of being immortal, right? Because sooner or later,
You get
you've seen
bored.
it all, done it all. You're bored, and what's there to live for anymore? So, well, listen, we're already 18
We're
minutes.
gonna end it on that note.
Yes.
That's kind of
Hopefully, the audience won't go out and do anything drastic. If any of you are immortal, please tune in next
Whatever
week. Don't
good
go away on
karma
us.
I built up before that just completely went out the door.
Well,
Right.
No. You made a valid point. And
Yeah.
you didn't actually make it. Bill kind of took it to that next level. So good for Bill.
Yes.
Good for Bill.
So anyway, Josh, I want to thank you for joining us
Yes,
for this podcast.
thank you, sir.
Anytime.
Very
Very
much.
entertaining, and we appreciate it. And good luck with your future cosplay endeavors. We'll be actively following your.
See you at
Career
British
on
Fest,
Facebook.
and
And-
we'll see you on the 11th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For anybody genuinely curious, I will be at British Fest on August.
Well, and for anyone listening, by the time they hear this, British Fest will be over.
Over. Well, then I will be at Wizard World Chicago.
And they
towards
will
the
have
end of
listened
August.
to our live podcast from British Fest.
Right. We
yeah.
are going to do
We're
a
gonna
live
do this,
podcast.
yeah.
Our 5th will be at British Fest.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks everybody for listening. Unfortunately, we lost Audie for a little bit here, but anyway, he'll be back soon, I assure you. So on behalf of Charles and John and Josh, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.
Don't get bored.
Yeah.
Bye.
Don't live forever.
Don't live forever.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood Podcast. For more information and past episodes, please visit our website at galacticdriftwood.space. And now, please deactivate your cranial downlinks, collect your towels, and be sure to watch your step as you exit the gravity well.